Hey, greetings YouTube, performance reviews where I give you the review from the technician's point of view, and welcome to another episode of Vacuums Explained. I don't know how many episodes we've done, go check the playlist. So, in this video, I want to talk about anti-tangle technology and the common misconceptions of how it works in vacuum cleaners. You see a lot of marketing from Shark particularly, and Dyson too, who do the most marketing, that they are anti-tangle on the brush rollers. So I want to talk about what causes tangles in brush rollers and how they've been avoided in the past. And the answer to this is probably going to surprise you. It's not going to be some gimmick. It's not going to be some sort of knife that cuts it off. And it's not going to be rubber flaps on the brush roller. So what is an anti-tangle brush roller? Well, there's two things that make brush rollers tangle. One is having a very skinny diameter versus a very wide diameter. Big difference there. The other thing is what we call the chevron pattern, which is how the brushes are angled on the brush roller. Something like this, where the angle is not very good, tends to tangle more. And then the third thing is actual power of the vacuum cleaner. Vacuum cleaners that are more powerful tend to tangle less, even if the brush roller is something that's more likely to tangle. And the reason for that is having the suction airflow for the vacuum to clean the roller by itself is important. And there aren't very many vacuums that have that suction power to keep the roller clean. We have things like Lindhouse, Central Vacuums, Miele's a great example. We'll get into that in a minute. Sebo's another one. So those are examples of machines that are anti-tangle. Now I have on the bench here something that's very, very old. Now this is a dinosaur from the 60s, but they made Hoover convertible for a very long time. You can see this has a very wide brush roller, and you can see that it's very clean. Now this machine I've been using on and off randomly in my store for months now, and it's, well, when we look at it, there is no tangle. And there's a couple of things to that. One is it has the wide brush roller that keeps it from tangling. The second of which is it has so much airflow right next to the brush roller that it helps keep it clean. Double-edged sword is this machine does not have the suction to lift big objects. So things like thread, things like cat litter, that sort of stuff, that's not going to do well with a machine like this. And of course this doesn't do hard floors, but that's just an example of a OG anti-tangle brush roller. Now, rather than copying the OG anti-tangle brush roller, Hoover would later introduce this. And this is an amalgamation of a lot of things, but this is a very fat roller. Again, we don't have a very good pattern for the brushes. There's no chevron pattern on this. This is just a straight brush. And then they've added these blades, again, which help add width to keep hair from building up. So this is strictly using width, making the roller wider to keep it from tangling, which means the hair would have to be longer for it to tangle in theory. This doesn't have the power or the brush pattern to truly be anti-tangle, which means even though hair might not build up as easy here, without that chevron pattern, we're going to find hair going into the sides. And this is something we see with Shark. I have a whole video talking about this being a problem with Shark. And the Shark just continues to have some of the worst nozzle designs out there, and they claim they're anti-tangle when they're quite the opposite. So we've talked about width, we've talked about brush roller design. Now here's one that was very good for airflow and originally designed for central vacuums by Vesselwerk in Germany. This had no problems with tangling on central vacuums, but you put it into a portable vacuum, which doesn't have the same suction power, and it would tangle. So they came out with a revision where they kept the same brush pattern, because the chevron pattern is good for anti-tangle. But what they did was they made it wide and no longer contoured. So while this hurts airflow, this keeps suction just fine. This also keeps the hair off it from building up. So that was something that was done as a revision by one of the legendary companies, Vesselwerk, who designs most of the modern nozzles. Another OG anti-tangle, and this is out of my vacuum at home. I was trying out the stiff brush roller. This was in my house for about 2 months, and I have, at the time, 2 women living with me with long hair, and I have 2 dogs. So this is a Lindhouse design, and again, we have width, we have that aggressive chevron pattern, and here it is on a floor model. This is the floor model in my vacuum store, which for 3 years has never been cleaned. That gives you an idea just how, again, aggressive that chevron pattern and having that extra bit of suction makes all the difference. So that's something I want to really drive home. Having the power to clean the roller makes a difference in that chevron pattern. So this Lindhouse, this is a PB14 nozzle. You can also get this on a HF6 canister. You can add it to your central vacuum if you have a central vacuum. This is legendary in anti-tangle, and they never advertise it. It's not an issue. And that's the thing, is a lot of these things we see, like it doesn't lose suction. Well, that was really never a problem with vacuum cleaners. So a lot of these things are marketing terms, and that's something a lot of people don't understand and they fall for. So this is an old school looking nozzle. This is anti-tangle, and it's fairly lightweight and maneuverable despite being boxy shape. A couple of other ones that are tangle. This is an Oric XL21 style roller. You see it's very thin. It's just like that Dyson one I showed you. This is one of the worst offenders of tangled brush rollers. Again, you don't see people talking about this. You don't see this referenced in any ads, but this roller absolutely tangles. Again, it's too thin, it spins too fast, and the Orics just don't have enough power to clean this. Also, the chevron pattern is a little bit off on this. This is a Recar Brilliance or R30 brush roller. This is been cleaned and still tangled. And again, the pattern of the brushes is incorrect because they want to have interchangeable brush strips, and the machine just doesn't have enough suction power really to clean this. I'm not sure really anything would. Even when they had similar rollers on their central vacuums, these just tangled. And this is kind of in between the sizes in terms of being too thin or too thick. So that's a problem. Next, we have a Sebo ETC commercial nozzle. You may have also seen this if you have a Patriot vacuum. Again, this is one that has not been cleaned in years. And oh my gosh, we have one little bit of hair tangled on it. But this is something that I also use regularly in my store and is quite high mileage. This does not tangle. Again, because it's wide and the pattern, the chevron pattern, is correct for this nozzle. This machine that this goes to is not particularly powerful by today's standards. It's not weak by any means, but it's definitely not as powerful as something like a Miele. But again, because the nozzle is designed properly, tangling is not an issue. This is a late 90s design, so again, over 25 years old, doesn't tangle. And if I didn't mention it, this Stealth is early 90s, so this is a 30-plus year design that does not tangle. Now there is another solution to this problem, which is get rid of the roller in general and go with straight suction. And this is appropriate for a lot of people. This is not appropriate for wall-to-wall carpet, but for just cleaning hard floor and area rugs, gosh, a straight suction nozzle is not going to tangle because there's no rotating brush. This has got brushes that flip down that you will have to vacuum off. But again, this is relatively no tangle and an easy solution for a lot of people with hard floors and area rugs. Here are two other solutions that are anti-tangle. This just has a rear brush, again straight suction. This is a Sebo 7200 GS. I have a whole video on this. This is an excellent tool. This is a Visselwerk RD285. Again, have a whole video on this. This just has squeegees. These will clean a lot of surfaces. This particularly will clean carpet pretty well and not tangle. But you need the airflow, the suction, to make these work. Trying to make something like this work on something weak like a Shark or a Dyson is just not going to work out. But if you're using this on the end of a central vacuum, gosh, you're going to wonder why you needed a brush roller to begin with. Now remember, we were talking about brush rollers and how they tangle and how the solution sometimes is making them wider. Well, here's one right out of the factory, wide, great chevron pattern, but these sometimes tangle. And the reason for that is the user can turn the power down too low, or if they use the auto setting, which is meant for a 12-inch straight suction nozzle, with this, it will tangle. And you'll see this in reviews and people talking about this head. So here's one, again, generally resist tangles, but within where the user can deprive the machine of power and cause it to malfunction. I hope this helps you go through some of the marketing crap that's out of there, really misinforming the public. If you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you want to support what we're doing, check out our Patreon. Also check out the description box below where we have all sorts of links. Follow us on X, Instagram, all that good stuff. And have yourself a wonderful day.